Hello and welcome to Sphere Status. I'm Cody Adams. So today we're going to be talking about the sphere of work, and that sphere is primarily responsible for doing most of the labor. And what's pretty amazing about this particular sphere is that God designed work. God made it as an expression of who He is to be able to mirror our God, our God who made us, and God who made everything. And our responsibility is through, ultimately through this particular aspect of our life. And so most of our life is spent in this sphere. We actually spend 8 hours a day or more in this sphere and thinking about it sometimes when we're outside of this sphere. And so there's a lot to say about it and what's happening. So if you're not familiar with what sphere status is, or who I am, let me give you a quick introduction. So sphere status is basically where we're taking all the spheres of society, how God has actually made our world to function. There are 7 core spheres that have been articulated through theologians throughout the ages. And those 7 spheres represent how God has designed our society to function. And he has particular interest and design building codes for these spheres that we can understand that He gives us in Scripture, because Scripture speaks to all of life. It's designed for everything we need to understand to order our life in a way that reflects our Creator. And so this is the cool thing, is that God speaks to all these things and we operate in all these spheres all the time. It's not, I know some people get a little, when I talk about this, like, oh, Cody, I don't know if I can really think about like all 7 spheres. Well, you're already doing them, right? You have a family, hopefully, and you came from a family, right? You operate in some, hopefully, form that you're in a church of some sort, right? And or you are part of the church if you're a Christian, the universal church, part of Christ's bride. So you meet together with the fellowship where 2 or 3 are gathered, and then you are part of our nation. And so our nation is actually, of course, part of God's design, nations in general, and then, of course, America being birthed definitely by the providence of God. And then you also have the sphere of work. God created work. You have the sphere of culture. Culture is the cultus, that's the way we exemplify our understanding of our theology, how it goes into everything, our music, the way we think about traditions, the way we think about art and architecture, all goes into culture. And then, of course, you have your education and your media, the things that are actually delivering to you information and education in a way that helps you engage. And of course, we're using that sphere right now, using media and health, ultimately to stay healthy and to be living, right? So we are all operating in all these spheres. And of course, the center of that sphere is our theology, right? Our understanding of God, what we are to be doing and worshiping in Him. And so that's an overview of all of life. It's amazing how that all fits together. And policy, of course, is part of that, with policy being both what's the legislation passed and then the enforcement of that. And so all of these are all the spheres of life in which we are engaged with. And so we are specifically talking about the sphere of work today, and why I do what I do. I'm an educator. I went to school to be a history educator. I was homeschooled before that, and then when I went to college, I was really excited about learning all the things that God has helped us understand through studying history. History is truly His story when it's told from a Christian position. It's helpful to understand how God is working His plan throughout history and how you fit in it, and how you see all the people of humanity attempting to do what obviously they try to do, and some of them in ways that please God and others that do not. And so we have the immense illustration of the ethics we should embody, the ethics that we should learn in all of history. And so that's what I went to school to study from a Christian perspective. Obviously, as a Bible school, I went to Northland Baptist Bible School, and theology is the base of a Bible school, so I was a Bible major as well. And learning how to communicate things in the 21st century made me more skilled at just enjoying doing media production, and so that became one of my other specialties that I studied and practice as a professional. And so that's what I do. I've been doing this now in education education and in media now in different ways for over 10 years. I have over 15,000 hours of concentrated study in these fields, and or it is a ministry. That is ultimately what all of life is, technically speaking, is a ministry to the Lord and to the people around us. And so that is the way I approach everything I do. So we're approaching the sphere of work. It's kind of cool to talk about this topic because, not everybody knows just exactly what's going on. Pardon me, I just kind of got a sneeze there. So when we're talking about the sphere of work, we're talking about ultimately how we are achieving both economic and fulfilling a purpose. As I mentioned at the beginning, God designed us to work. So work is not just for economic provision and our ability to have food at the table. It's ultimately a way that God has given us to pursue his purpose for us. And so we have to understand when we come to the sphere of work, we are coming to it, understanding it from a different level than maybe the secular world might, or maybe just in a very platonic, practical plane. And so when we approach that sphere, we have to understand the heart of God, the way God made us in that process. And so we're going to touch a little bit about just some news that's going on right now in the sphere of work. So let's do that real quick. So we, right now, according to The Guardian, we added 119,000 jobs in September, a report delayed by a federal shutdown. So the unemployment rate is at 4.4%. And obviously, it's the highest level since 2021, according to The Guardian. So some of that is partially due to a lot of turnover in businesses because of all the shiftings that's happening in society. You have a lot that's going on. And so part of these economic shifts and people moving, a lot of these people are moving out of cities. And so turnover happens because, as we know, there's a lot of political chaos happening in some of these larger cities that is causing people to have to leave their jobs. And so part of that is certainly part of that. But then you've also got a lot of other things going on with the actual the way we think about this process. And so obviously I would say that we've been doing better than that. This is a more liberal report, of course, the U.S. jobs market at 119,000 jobs in September. But let's think about this. So part of when we're exploring, obviously, when you read about what's going on in the jobs and on a statistical level, you don't really get the picture. When you are actually in the job market, you start to get the picture pretty quick. And honestly, the job market today is really, really, really rough. It is rough, like a dog, rough. And so we're talking about a day and age in which what's difficult about now working in the 21st century of work is that ultimately you're competing not just on your local region, not just on your particular opportunities for that local region. You are competing with the entire nation's, potentially international, depending on the kind of job you're applying for, resumes. And because everybody can apply remotely from any point in time, you get put into this massive pool, and it is incredibly difficult, both on the employer and the employee, the job candidate, to search for that and find a good match. And so there are some amazing men. I should have actually had this up already. There are some amazing people doing some great work at Red Balloon. I don't know if you've ever checked out Red Balloon before. They are the only non-woke job board is how they position themselves, at least early on in their branding. They're trusted by a lot of different companies like Public Square and Tucker Carlson Network and Moms for America and Patriot Group, Hillsdale College as well. And the Daily Wire has also been posting on here for their various jobs. And so this has started out of Idaho. And they do amazing work, Andrew and his group of people from there. And, of course, he's connected with some of the great people at the church over there, and Doug Wilson's church. And what's great about what's going on with Red Balloon is they are trying to help you find jobs that are, generally speaking, vetted to understand that we're going to be here about American values and work values, work ethic as well, and not DEI quotas or paycheck hiring practices. And so it's always important when you, by the way, because this is just, there's your human beings and they're getting their own people. Whenever you're looking for a job, make sure if you find something that you find is kind of woke, whenever you're looking at a site like this, just say, hey, just so you know, send a little message at the bottom of you can contact us. Because I've found a couple of them on here, so but it's good to help them out. They're still newer in their job board, so they're trying to learn from that. But they are way better, let me tell you, than like most of the job boards for conservatives in particular. It's really groundbreaking what they are doing here at Red Balloon. I highly recommend you go to see them. Redballoon.work is the extension. Redballoon.work and start searching for those jobs if you are interested in exploring other options for work. Definitely recommend doing that, as well as if you are an employer. Employers, of course, you should consider posting a job here on Red Balloon's site. They are really going to give you a incredible experience.
One that's not dominated by a political party or ideology, but by real Americans who oppose the divisive rules and cancel culture mandates that have invaded many of the nation's largest companies. This is a movement of hometown America. People who want to build their careers, raise their families, and live their faith in the spirit and legacy of the American dream. At Red Balloon, we're connecting no-nonsense employers with hardworking employees, people who are passionate about bringing accomplishment and success to their workplace. If you're an employer looking for serious talent, you need to post your job on Red Balloon. And if you're an employee who's tired of a cancel culture workplace, then come to Red Balloon and find your future. Because you should be free to grow your career, and you shouldn't have to choose between your job and your values.
Yep, so highly recommend taking a look at them. So they're doing amazing work, and there's a lot to do when it comes to finding people. They have some unique ways in going about finding people, which is really great. But it is a difficult thing out there, and as Christians, we should really be thinking about one of the most important ways that we should be looking to bring people into our companies is through actually growing them. So a lot of people, they're always looking for those top level experts and that kind of thing. The thing about that is, if you think about historically, how did the West become so like it was? Well, one of the greatest things that was true about America and true about the West in general was that there was a discipleship path built into the career that you were in, the industry that you were in. And unfortunately, in the 21st century, in the modernization, in the hyper-specialization of the 21st century and in the 20th century, and really through the 19th century, sadly, we have lost that. We have lost this discipleship mentality and framework to be able to do that in our companies. And we really need to reclaim that. If we are Christians, if we are people who want to recover the West, who want to make America great again, ultimately we have to do that within the sphere of work. We have to be thinking about, okay, I want to find people. I want to find people in high school, as a matter of fact, because if you think about it, in the early part of the West and in the early part of American history, some of the greatest minds were at 14, 15, 16, 17. They weren't even like what we would consider what people would be doing at those ages. And so the way we should be thinking about growing potential is in the teen years, in the high school years, because that's really where historically we would start people in their careers, is at the age of 13 and 14 years old into a career path. And so actually starting to do that, but you don't necessarily need to go through high schools. Yes, that might be a good option on scale. But one of the best things to do is to be thinking about connecting with homeschool groups, connecting with people who are actually going to be thinking about these types of things, and connecting with local business people so that you can actually kind of connect to where the talent is and start to grow that talent, start to create content that is posted, that's deliberately designed not only as a marketing piece for your company, but actually to start growing the mindset of the people that you might want to be working for you at one point or another. And so we really have to do a lot of work as Christians in this in careers. So let's see what else is going on. We've got Intuit reveals the new AI agents in a bid to help small business owners across the world grow and prosper. This is going to become huge. Is the use of AI for small business professionals. Let me tell you, I use AI a lot. It is super helpful to help me accomplish my goals as a small business professional. If you think about it, the whole point of a small business is that it's small and you don't have the kind of resources to be able to spend or to be able to hire everybody you'd really like to hire. And so the best thing for you is to leverage the best tools that allow you to accomplish the ultimate goal of what you're doing there. They're there to serve the end consumer and or person that you're there for, right? It could even be through a nonprofit organization. Who are you serving? And so thinking about leveraging every tool that you can leverage, especially the tools that have the longest reach and have the longest lever. And AI is going to have the longest lever of any of the tools in all of human history, and it's going to keep getting longer, which means you're going to be able to lift heavier things with a longer lever, right? That classic phrase, give me a lever long enough and I will be able to move the world. Well, that is going to be true with AI. It will be that possible, and it will be incredibly powerful for small business owners to be able to leverage that. And Intuit is a company, obviously, if you're familiar with QuickBooks, Intuit is the source company, the mother company of QuickBooks. And what they do is amazing. I use QuickBooks for my small business transactions, and I do QuickBooks Online. And right now you can see they're having a Black Friday sale, 70% off. By the way, these are not actual sponsors. I'm just promoting some of these great business resources for businesses. And if you wanted to start your business, this would be a great time for you to do this. Jump in, grab this at this discount, because you can get started to do all the invoicing and everything you need to do right away, and it's totally worth you doing this. And of course, one of the things that's an advantage to this is it also has QuickBooks Checking. So I actually use QuickBooks Checking as my primary checking account for my business. I don't use a bank for my business. My bank is QuickBooks, and they have a bank that's set up to do that, and it's incredible. It is really fantastic to have that all in one roof, my invoicing and my bank for my business. And so that is, I highly recommend doing that. This is an insane deal. I wish I actually knew about this deal, of course, back in the day before I got mine. But 70% off for 3 months, ends 11/30. So we got 10 days. So take a look at that. But yeah, Intuit's doing a lot. Intuit's doing a lot to try to help small business owners. And AI tools are going to become that. AI tools will help leverage in the 21st century, unlike anything we've had before. And Christians need to be aware when we're using them, we can be scared, or we can realize that these are God-given tools. People go, you know what I'm going to wait for? I'm going to trust in God to save me in the midst of this giant, let's say, flood, right? And I don't know if you know this classic story is people climb up on top of the roof and they're like, I'm going to wait for the Lord to save me. And the boat comes along and come on, jump down. We'll get you to shore. No, I'm going to wait for the Lord to save me. A guy with a rowboat comes by and says, "Come on, jump in." And you go, "No, I'm going to wait for the Lord to save me." And a helicopter comes by, and "No, I'm going to wait for the Lord to save me." And finally, they all drown. And they wake up in heaven, and they go, "I don't get it, God. What gives? Why didn't you save us from the death that we had, from the perilous situation?" And he's like, "What are you talking about? I sent you like 2 boats and a helicopter. Why do you need to take them?" Okay, it's a good joke, but it's a good illustration. It's a good story. God gives us resources that are practical, and they can be used for evil, but they can also be used for God's glory. And so there's nothing wrong with using ChatGPT in a way that glorifies God, in a way that is designed to improve the businesses that you have, It is incredibly powerful. I highly recommend ChatGPT and the paid version in particular. If you're serious about doing business and if you're serious about leveraging it, the amount of resources that you can use for that is just incredible. You can help you figure out laws and what's going on. You can help you figure out the various insights on marketing and, of course, creating marketing content for you, creating sales copy for you, creating positioning for your brands, and even thinking about training materials. You can create training materials all with ChatGPT. And then, of course, you can create some of the greatest things that you can do with ChatGPT is actually have it do financial information as well. And again, you'd want to check it with a human checker. You don't want to just, none of these things, you should just, press send on and do nothing with and not think about it. You want to be always a good steward of every tool that you use, but thinking about it as this is going to give you a leverage to be able to accomplish larger and better things. And why not take advantage of using AI? So highly recommend that. I'm going to listen to a couple videos that I found from some of these great different thinkers in the field of AI, in the field of innovation and business. And we're going to just kind of listen to this and then comment about what they say and why they're saying it. So this one comes from an interview that was done by a news channel about how AI, and a lot of people are threatened by AI, especially people who have trade jobs. Listen to what the CEO of the software company called NVIDIA, which is actually the software company I'm using to stream right now, what he says about how AI will affect plumbers and electricians.
Just as the last industrial revolution, the reason why it came about was because you needed it. And so the industrial revolution that started here in the UK came out of need. You need it now too. If you're an electrician, you're a plumber, if you're a carpenter, we're gonna need hundreds of thousands of them to build all of these factories. And the skilled craft segment of every economy is gonna see a boom. You're going to have to build, you're going to have to keep doubling and doubling and doubling and doubling, doubling every single year. And I think that you're going to be building out AI infrastructure here in UK for a decade.
For an economy that is struggling at the moment.
He's pretty much saying that AI is actually going to increase certain trade jobs in particular, because in order to build all these plants and the fact of how fast they grow, the amount of building and the amount of innovation within the building, within the infrastructure, that's going to have to happen, even in the civic infrastructure, is going to be immense, according to him. And so, and obviously, I've kind of experienced some of that. We have Foxconn that came over here, and we obviously don't feel that great about Foxconn over here in the area of, and so in my area. But we also, this is part of the reality. We've also got Microsoft building their several AI, farms and things like that. And this is the reality. So for trades in particular, for that kind of thing, this is going to be a boom for them, and a boom for those people like your kids and their kids to be able to take advantage of getting involved in this. If the tech fields and things like that, the media fields aren't their thing, if they're hands-on, there's lots of opportunities for that, and it will be continue to increase that opportunity. Again, electricians and plumbers is what he pointed out. And of course, builders, right? Part of that electrician and crew. So that's something that I find fascinating, is that AI does really going to make a big impact on the direction of our work. And it's a God-given thing. It's a really we should be thankful for these tools and use them in a way that honors God in particular. This is another video is thinking about if you are a small business person out there, or you are in charge of an organization where you are thinking about how you actually position what it is you offer, especially if you offer a product, but even if you offer a service. There's a new model that's actually been kind of becoming a thing that's very, very popular for a reason. And this man, Daniel Priestley, is going to explain a little bit about this new model and what it really could do to leverage of this new model and the way we think about framing business.
The new business model that's emerging is that you give free value to the bottom 90% and you don't ask anything in return, but you monetize the top 10%. And you find things that are very special experiences, special products, limited editions, communities, special access. The top 10% have got all the money. So you just give free value to 90% of people and you only create products and services for the top 10%. That's very much a new business model at the moment.
So this is a really cool opportunity for you to think about is you've got the bottom 90% of you have what everybody offers, right? Everybody offers a lot of the standard stuff. And if you can offer the standard stuff really at a very extremely low cost to you, whatever you can find in your products or services that is very high value and very low cost to you, offering that as the primary thing that you're doing, but then when you want to push the margin, you push the margin on the things that are really at the top of this 10%, the real top things, the best top things that are the most premium of the services that you offer. And so what this does is in an economy like we've got in the 21st century right now, and we've got this it's a very difficult economy we're in, although it is improving. And so one of the things that people are looking for, we're looking for a deal, especially if you're a small business person. And so, or if you have a small business or you know, even though that's not usually true that when you're off a business, not looking for a deal there. You want them to buy your premium service. But because of the tight budget, where everybody's looking for a deal. And so when you can give away a lot of really high value experiences at a very low cost to yourself, that's a great thing. The best way to do it, of course, is a digital product, something that is digital that you've created that is an aid or a help or a benefit to the people that you serve, because digital, number one, you create it once and it goes a mile, right? It goes more than a mile, right? It keeps going and going and going. If you create a great, it's called an evergreen resource, something that can be downloaded and used as advice, this can be incredibly valuable. And then that pretty much brings people's not only along with you that you have so much to offer them and you've been getting so much advice from them that then now they're like, man, I want to buy something from them. These guys now, they've got some really good offers too. And so they also have, then you offer the more premium things that you want to do. And this also is true for your services in thinking about how you actually serve the people that you do. This is one of the new business models. And I find that this is interesting. I've actually, to some degree, I've been exploring this myself. And I find it can be very useful depending on the kind of industry that you serve. And so that's one there. And then also, of course, if you are at all on the internet and looking for business content at all, you've got to know about Gary Vaynerchuk, who is a marketing guru, as well as he owns a marketing agency in, I believe, New York. And his content, he is prolific at the content that he produces for the internet on a variety of topics. But then in particular about business. And so he's going to give us some things that can help us in what we're trying to do with our businesses in 2026. And especially if you've been thinking about business, if you've been curious about you're working for somebody else, but you might want to do your own thing. Here's some starters for you to think about. And obviously this is a longer video, so we're not going to watch the whole thing. But yeah, we're going to listen to a few of them.
You can build an empire. You think these last 18 years were remarkable for an individual person who's funny like a Drewski who hears my motivating words and will do it? The next 18 years are going to be profound, and humans like Mr. Beast and others will be the biggest enterprises in the world. 5 trends that are going to define 2026. Number 1, the individual empire. As I think about the individual empire, I think we're at a tipping point to what my conversation started in 2008 around Crush It. Crush It came out in 2009. It was like, hey, you can cash in on your passion. Then there was Grape Story when I started the first influencer agency. Then there was Crushing It. And now we're in this world where it's very clear to people that being an influencer is a business in a way that it wasn't 18 years ago. But more importantly, I'm using the word empire. In 2008, I said you, all of you, and this is still real, can make $50,000 to $100,000 talking about Alf and the Smurfs and all that. Ask yourself, what do I want to do every day for the rest of my life? Do that. I promise you can monetize that shit. If you love Alf, do an Alf blog. You collect Smurfs, Smurf it up. What I'm saying in 2026 is you can build an empire. We are talking about individuals now not just making money from brand deals, but there are two macro things that are happening that are massive. The CPG and consumer product opportunity that the Kelsey brothers just raised at a $200 million valuation on. When you look at what's going on with Logan Paul and Jake Paul and their brands, especially Prime and KSI's brand, when you look at Charlie D'Amelio going for a popcorn, when you look at Emma Chamberlain and her coffee, when you look at all these, the Poppy and Liquid Death, which is a little different. Poppy and Liquid Death were brands, and then the founders themselves went up and became the individual face. Similar a little bit to mine. I'm more business, then I became face, then to business with Empathy Wines, which I did originally back then. And so it's similar to like building your brand on Instagram, but then going and standing up a Patreon, Substack. But in those scenarios, those platforms still take some of the action. When that's built on a decentralized server, not a centralized server, and not done by a platform that owns it, but by a platform that's decentralized and you own all the money, you're maximizing all of your revenue and not sharing it. You will share with the places that give you the attention. Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, whatever it is. But where you're gonna monetize in a decentralized way where you keep 100% of that dollar, not 90 or 80% of that dollar.
So there's a lot he shared there. Highly recommend you take a look at Gary Vee and his Instagram. And of course, he is all over the place. You can find him on LinkedIn. You can find him on Instagram, YouTube. I watch a lot of his content on YouTube. Highly recommend. So yeah, thinking about how you're doing, if you're someone who really wants to do their own business, that's something that I really highly recommend. And if you're going to do your own business, you need your own LLC. And if you've been thinking about this, you've been praying about this, it would be nice to be able to make some money on the side, as well as, be able to serve some people. Highly recommend you just do it in faith. Obviously pray about it, but do it in faith and take a look. LegalZoom is a great resource that I've used to get yourself set up with an LLC. It really helps with everything you need to do for the work that you are going to do. And so the basic plan is just going to get you started with an articles of organization and filed with the state. That's free. But if you wanted to actually do the full thing, and in that basic package, you really get everything you need, really. Let's see if I can kind of zoom in here. I can't zoom in too much. So you get the operating agreement, you get the EINs, your employer identity number. You get your 30-minute consultations with an attorney if you wanted, hands-on guidance if you wanted, 150 different types of legal documents for a single year access to it, so you can use it right away to get things just laid out and started, as well as unlimited e-signatures, 1 year included. And so this is a fantastic starter package for you, $249 plus filing fees here at LegalZoom. Really highly recommend you take a look at that if you are serious about considering, serious about pursuing. Just go do this, and then you can continue to build your brand after that. Obviously, picking a name, you can part of that is brand finding the names that are available for you for your business can help you do that. Thinking about, by the way, if you are going to pick your name, do yourself a favor. First of all, of course, you can use a tool like ChatGPT to do that kind of research that will allow you to find that information at scale for what your brand is. You can say, what are some brand names that I might be able to use that are available? But there are domain searches. There are website ones specifically, but then there are ones that are name checkers that check multiple platforms, but that are both social media as well as websites that allow you to kind of check what's available. Let's see. You just do a Google search, and you can bring up lots of different domain searches and things that can help you see if you've got availabilities on various platforms. So highly recommend you do that and use those resources. You can use ChatGPT to do these kind of searches. And of course you can go straight into your actual, social medias and search in the platform and then go, okay, this business name looks like it's available. So come up with a list, is what I've done in the past. Come up with a list of names Think about in terms of the ideas that you want to communicate, not just like the thing that you serve or do or sell. Ideas, and that gives you a more creative concept for the name. Of course, using ChatGPT, hey, I want to create a brand around this concept. Give me 25 different ideas that differentiate it for this kind of audience, for this kind of product, for this kind of culture, and be thinking about culture. Be thinking about the kind of people and the culture that you want to market to, because the name of your brand will be a very helpful thing. Now you can change it, so it's not you're not set in stone or nothing. You can change it, but it is helpful once you've actually done the research, done the process to actually do that. Maybe I'll do a whole video on just that and post that on what I'd recommend for if you're going to search for and actually build your own company, how I would recommend doing the research before you apply to get your domain or to get our articles filed for your company. What I would recommend for branding, for the selection of your name and how you're going to position that online. So maybe I'll do a video on that, just on that right there in the future here. So that's pretty much all I got for tonight. Obviously, there's so much going on. Again, I'd highly recommend going check out Red Balloon. If you use any of the social media things like X, they do a lot on X. They do a lot on YouTube, a lot on Facebook, and connect with the various people that are running these things. If you're on LinkedIn, check that out. And because the more you connect with Christian conservative people who do business, the better opportunities you're going to have to find not only tips and tricks on how to improve yourself with what you are trying to do as a business owner, but then in a way that supports each other and can help each other out. Because if that's ultimately what we should be thinking about, is building a network of Christian conservatives that really can help each other find success and use our various services together, almost like a network, right? So I know Public Square is one of those that's kind of like that. It's more conservative leading, but not Christian necessarily. So we need to continue to work on building Christian networks in that regard for business. So when you find those people, keep them in your back pocket, keep them, get to know, really network and connect with other people. When you find somebody else, recommend your people, people that are Christian conservatives who stand for God's truth in the business square, in the way they run their business, in the way they do their marketing, and connect those people with those people, because they will be immensely blessed by the introduction to other people who God has given for this opportunity to be able to share these things with each other. So, by the way, if you haven't, this is Canva. Really highly recommend you get on Canva if you have any work and start to learn how to put together some of these graphics. It's pretty easy. I would actually recommend, I'll do some tutorials from my experience on how to put together some of these things. Obviously, I haven't built that one out yet. But it's really kind of fun. You can also find these really cool live little things that move around, which I'll be using in the future here for my live streams. And so, yeah, we will conclude for our night tonight, a little shorter live stream tonight, but we will pick it back up. So our next stream is primarily going to talk about, let's see what we've got actually on our docket for our next stream here. Is, drumroll please, our next stream, come on now, is culture. So that'll happen. We'll see what happens. I might pre-record it and then have this playing on Thanksgiving, so that people, if you're kind of doing whatever and you want to listen to something about culture, we'll talk probably specifically about the cultural practices that really like the tradition of Thanksgiving and what it means and the historical background to that, and how we should be thinking about bringing new cultural practices to the forefront from our theology and from our understanding of American culture, and we need to make these new holidays, new traditions, so that we are able to inculturate the truths of the past, the wisdom of the past in a way that brings it forward to today. So we'll be talking about that. So I might pre-record that. So that's what you might see there, and it will be playing live, but we'll see how it goes. I might do it. We'll see. So that is our time today is for this. If you haven't had an opportunity, please take a look at my website. It will give you a great opportunity to, if you want to have me talk to somebody in your church, in your school, in your civics. You're like, Cody, I like the way you frame things. I think that it might be, I would love for you to be able to just talk to people for me. I would love for you to get you in front of the people that are in my group, and then you explain some of the things that you talk about. So I'm offering 3 different particular speeches right now on these topics. So why did society shatter in 2020? The hard truth that broke me but reformed me. And so that's what I'm offering. I really highly recommend that first in particular, because that's the foundation of what I believe God has done for society, but then just revealed to me through just my just being obedient to Him, going, oh, okay, now I've learned some things. You've taught me these, Lord, and from my studies. So MAGA is also going to be doomed without this, what originally made America great and can again. We have to get back to the original foundation of what made America great. Otherwise, we'll never make America great again. So we need to know what that is, how it came to be, and be willing to pursue that in all of our political endeavors if we're serious. And so that, whether or not we're serious or not, that'll be up to us to decide. So then the pen from the cornerstone, how Christian media builds Christ's kingdom. And that's my last speech there. Let's see if I can actually kind of make this a little wider here. My last speech there is the pen and from the cornerstone. That's ultimately about how do we use this new media that we're using right now? How do we use all this stuff for God's glory? AI will be one of these things I'll address as well in this. And how do we see the principles all the way, even in Scripture itself, and then through church history, and then through even the early part of the American experiment, how we saw the use of media proliferate God's truth and God's word. And when the church used it, God blessed it. And in the 21st century, where we have a printing press on steroids in our pockets right here, and Christians are not leveraging it, this is one of the things that is one of my biggest burdens for the church, is to learn how to do that. And so I give a speech about calling us to action on that, calling us to give us some considerations from theology and church history on the use of media for Christ's kingdom, and how to start to think about that and put it in action. So yeah, go through that. You can book my talk. It's more of just a inquiry form that you can fill out. And if you're interested in me helping you with any kind of production work, I do that. So I can help you with any of these types of things: brand strategy, event highlight reel. Again, I can do some of these coaching things like Canva, and how to position if you're going to be starting a new business, how to position do your research for what you're going to name your company, and then how to actually go about obtaining all of the different things for your company name and your brand. I can help you with that, all sorts of things. So if you want some help with media production in particular, if you're a church organization, your political organization, take a look at this form, fill it out, and I'd be happy to have a contact with you and get to know what your organization is, see if there's a unity there, and help you out. Obviously, bring God's glory and God's order to every sphere of life. So that's my day for today. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you next time.